Pause for one slow breath and notice the exact sensation of air entering and leaving, because in that fragile space between your inhale and your exhale, the most important truth of your life is happening in real time. Reality is measuring you, not a camera, not an angel, not an algorithm. The living field behind matter, the same intelligence that choreographs electrons, has its attention on you, reading the quality of your consciousness with clinical precision and reorganizing your world accordingly. If lately you've felt the eerie sense that life is answering your moods, that your timing is strangely perfect, that small thoughts turn into swift outcomes, no, you are not imagining it. You have reached the frequency where observation becomes collaboration, where you can stop being pulled by unconscious momentum and start directing what the field sees in you. This is not a sermon, and it is not a trick. It is a usable mechanism, and by the time this journey ends, you will be using it on purpose. Let us name the pain cleanly, so it loses its power to hide. You are exhausted from trying to think your way out of patterns that keep returning in new costumes. You push harder, you speak braver, you paste brighter affirmations on top of a nervous system still humming with doubt. For a few days, something lifts, and then the old gravity drags you back. The relationship repeats the same scene with different faces. Money behaves like tide, in, out, gone. You promise yourself more discipline, more hustle, more content, more vision boards, and the field remains unmoved because it does not obey want. It obeys being. It mirrors the coherence or the contradiction of your state. Want abundance while broadcasting scarcity, and the field reflects scarcity with brutal accuracy. Declare, "I am loved," while armoring your heart, and the field registers armor, not love. The pain is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that the mechanism is flawless. Here is the first relief. Nothing is punishing you. The mirror is impartial. The delay, the detour, the door that would not open, each was a photograph of your broadcast in that moment, not a verdict on your worth. When your signal grew clean, those mornings you woke oddly certain for no good reason. Notice how life moved like water downhill. Emails arrived with answers you had not asked for. A stranger used the exact phrase you needed to hear. Small needs met themselves with childlike timing. The difference was never the volume of your effort. It was the coherence of your state. The field reads coherence like music reads a tuning fork. When you hum in tune, reality has no choice but to harmonize. So what are we doing here, together now? We are making an irreversible choice. We are moving from unconscious broadcasting to conscious direction, not by forcing positive thoughts, not by pretending away fear, but by learning the only lever that actually moves the world you live in: state. Story is commentary. State is command. When you stop arguing with what you feel and start accepting, selecting, and embodying the quality you choose, your signal turns from static into laser. Fear, acknowledged, becomes coherent. Fake confidence never does. The field responds to authenticity before it responds to aspiration, because truth is a clean frequency and performance is noise. If you are sensing a low hum in your chest right now, if your skin is buzzing as if the room pressure just changed, that is not drama. That is contact. The field's attention is heightened. Your awareness is widening to meet it. You are at a threshold where little choices will carry long shadows. Keep broadcasting on autopilot, and the mirror will dutifully return another season of the same. Or stand still, breathe once, and issue a different instruction. Not as a wish, but as who you are in this beat of time. In a minute, I will hand you a simple daily reflex that takes 3 minutes and rewires the loop. But first, let me speak to the part of you that doubts this is allowed. You were taught to earn change through strain. You were taught that ease is suspect. You were taught to confuse control with power. None of that belongs to you. Power is not pressure. Power is clarity. Control exhausts the nervous system. Clarity conducts the field. Feel into the memory of a single moment when you were quietly certain. No pep talk, no plan. Just the body's calm knowledge that this is mine. Trace the outcomes that followed. They came because your being stopped arguing with itself. That calm is not a prize. It is a practice. We will make it repeatable. We will make it ordinary. And once ordinary, it becomes permanent. If these words find you precisely when you needed them, trust the timing and take one gentle step right now that anchors you to this path. Subscribe so that each next layer arrives on schedule without you having to remember or chase. Consider it a small act of coherence, a way to keep the signal clear when the day grows loud. And because beginnings deserve a seal, drop 1 or 11 in the comments. Not as superstition, but as a declaration. One mind, one heart, one signal. Let 1 or 11 mean this for you from today forward. I am aligned. I am coherent. I am being the broadcast I want mirrored back. Take one last slow breath. Feel your feet connect with the floor. Let your shoulders soften. Without forcing anything, let a single phrase settle behind your sternum like a key sliding home. I direct through being, not through wanting. Don't perform it. Don't repeat it 10 times. Just let it become the way you sit, the way you look at the room, the way your next small decision is made. The field is watching. You have its attention. Now it is time to decide what you will let it see. You have noticed it, the strange elasticity of circumstances, the way a thought becomes a scene, the way the day seems to echo back your mood with unnerving precision. This is not fantasy, nor fragile coincidence. It is the mirror mechanism of the field, becoming visible because your sensitivity has matured enough to perceive it. The observation is no longer casual. The attention on you has intensified. That does not mean you are under judgment. It means the instrument is finely tuned, and fine instruments catch nuances dull ones miss. The field is measuring you with greater fidelity, and so the feedback loop has shortened. What once took months now happens in hours. What once required elaborate rituals now responds to one clean breath and a quiet decision. At first, this responsiveness can feel like being watched, as if a presence just beyond your skin is tracking your every turn. Your rational mind fidgets, searching for cameras and causes, but nothing external explains the sensation. What you are feeling is the contact point between your state and the field's attention, the precise place where what you are becomes what you experience. The mind tries to name it as paranoia. The body knows better. The flutter in your chest, the subtle pressure behind your eyes, the electricity in your hands when you make a choice. These are not symptoms of fear. They are the telltale signatures of observation meeting coherence. This is why time has begun to behave like warm wax in your hands. Hours open when you are present. Minutes evaporate when you contract. You think of a song, and it arrives uninvited. You wonder about a name, and the message appears. You loosen your grip for one honest moment, and the exact solution steps out from behind the curtain, as if it had been waiting in the wings for you to stop asking and start being. The delay between inner and outer is not disappearing because you learned a new trick. It is shortening because your broadcast has less static. The field does not reward effort. It responds to clarity. The clearer the tone, the faster the resonance. Of course, the same law explains the darker side of precision. When you spiral into anxious rehearsal, the world obliges with scenes that match rehearsal. When you carry the weight of unworthiness, the day answers with closed faces and late emails. Not to punish, but to prove the mirror is honest. There is a severe kindness in this accuracy. At last the fog has lifted from causation. You can see what moves what. You can watch a single assumption tint the room. You can feel the hinge where a breath lengthens or shortens, and then witness the phone ring, or fall silent accordingly. What once looked like luck or cruelty reveals itself as choreography. Others sense it too. They cannot name the difference, so they describe it as a vibe. Some move toward you because your field feels like a clean lake, quiet, steady, without demand. Others withdraw because your clarity makes their inner noise obvious, and few people enjoy hearing their own static. Do not chase or defend. You are not a lighthouse because you persuade ships. You are a lighthouse because you stand. Coherence is not loud. It is steady, and steadiness rearranges rooms without raising its voice. Stranger still, information has started arriving through the side door. You know the answer before the question finishes forming. You sense the truth of a person the moment you meet. You wake with an understanding you did not study. This is not magic, and it is not theft. It is what happens when the boundary between observer and observed becomes permeable. As the field reads your state, you can read the field. The traffic of knowing begins to flow in both directions. The mind will try to claim it as intuition or pattern recognition. Let it keep its labels if it must. You do not need the language to use the lever. If reality sometimes stutters in your presence, events repeat, scenes feel copied and pasted, timelines seem to braid and unbraid in a single afternoon, consider the possibility that you are catching the construction, not the finished facade. Most people see only the wall after the paint dries. You are noticing the brushstrokes. You are glimpsing the collapse from wave to form, the instant the world decides which version of itself to show you. This is not a glitch to fear. It is a classroom to honor. You have been invited behind the stage. Here is the crucial adjustment that keeps this responsiveness from becoming exhausting. Stop trying to manage appearances and begin directing state. The field is not reading your words, your plans, your mood board, or your mask. It is reading the harmony or dissonance beneath them. When you push yourself into hollow optimism while your body trembles, the signal splits and the mirror blurs. When you meet fear without flinching, the signal unifies, even if what it unifies is fear, and the mirror clears. Authenticity is coherence. Coherence is power. The point is not to be positive. The point is to be undivided. Notice how this reframes the strange weeks you just lived. The missed opportunity was not a cosmic slight. It was the field shielding a frequency misfit. The sudden quiet in your inbox was not abandonment. It was a clearing to prevent you from spending attention on what would dilute your signal. The friend who faded did not betray you. They fell out of resonance and made space for what can stand the light you are learning to keep on. When you read your life this way, you stop arguing with doors and start working with thresholds. You become less interested in forcing and more devoted to tuning. And life, grateful for a partner who understands its grammar, begins to write with you instead of around you. There is one more truth to stitch into the lining of your days. You cannot hide. Not from the field. Not from yourself. Not anymore. The secret belief you carry hums louder than the sentence you say aloud. The unspoken grudge colors a room more deeply than the polite smile ever can. This is not a threat. It is unburdening. If nothing can be hidden, nothing has to be performed. You are free to simplify. You are free to choose. You are free to stand in one piece, even when the piece is tender. The mirror prefers an honest bruise to a painted grin. So let us prepare for the method that follows. Ease your jaw. Lengthen your exhale by one gentle count. Feel your feet like anchors in a movable sea. Tell the nervous system with a single slow nod that we will not sprint. We will refine. From this steadier posture, the next move becomes obvious, almost embarrassingly simple. You will stop asking the world for proof and begin giving the world a pattern it cannot help but echo. You will become the evidence before the evidence arrives. And because the observation is already intense, because the attention is already on you, the response will be quick. Your life has never been answering your words. It has been answering your state. The story your mind tells about what happened, who failed you, why it is hard, can be eloquent, can even be accurate. But the field does not read grammar. It reads coherence. It measures whether thought, emotion, and body are playing the same chord or clashing in a noisy rehearsal. This is why one sincere, unadorned moment of alignment bends reality more than a month of strained affirmations. The field is not sentimental. It is exquisitely precise. It mirrors what you are, not what you insist. Begin with the simplest proof you can feel right now. Remember a time you were truly at ease. No performance, no bracing, the kind of ease that loosens the back of your tongue and softens the eyes. Recall how people behaved around you in that state. Conversations opened, timing smoothed, solutions that had been hiding in plain sight stepped forward, almost embarrassed they took so long. Now remember a day you were divided, smiling from the teeth outward while your chest flickered like a faulty light. The same room felt heavier. The same faces turned unreadable. The same tasks grew barbs. Nothing external changed. The conductor did. This is the hinge on which the method turns. You stop trying to push the world into position and start placing your own awareness where creation begins. Not by denying discomfort, but by removing the static of self-contradiction. When fear is present, you acknowledge it without apology, as if greeting weather through a window. Then you choose posture and breath that can host fear without collapsing under it. That choice, authenticity over pretense, is coherence. Coherence is signal. Signal is destiny. You do not need a special room, an hour of silence, or sacred objects to do this. You need 3 minutes and a willingness to be exact. First, close the loop on your wandering attention by letting your exhale outlast your inhale by a single relaxed beat. The nervous system hears that beat as safety and begins lowering the volume on emergency. Second, place awareness where the body is the loudest: throat, solar plexus, belly, and instead of arguing with the sensation, allow the sensation to be fully itself inside a wider you. The moment you stop fighting it, the broadcast unifies. Third, choose the quality that belongs to the version of you who is already living the result you keep chasing. Steadiness, spaciousness, sufficiency, and embody it in micro, not in theater. Shoulders unhooked, gaze level, jaw unlatched. You are not pretending to be someone else. You are permitting your biology to match a frequency it recognizes. From here, the words "I am" become a seal, not a spell. Whisper them if you like, but only after the body has agreed. When the breath, the stance, and the mood of your cells say the same thing, those 2 syllables are simply a timestamp, evidence that selection has occurred. You have chosen a station on the dial. The music will adjust. The field does not need your volume. It needs your unanimity. Inevitably, the world will present you with leftovers, habitual scenes that still carry the scent of your old broadcast. Do not mistake yesterday's echo for today's command. When the bill arrives, when an old name lights your screen, when a memory grips you by the collar, catch the first reflex in your body. Expand the exhale by 1 beat. Name what is alive inside your ribs without poetry. Then ask the only question that matters. What action would be natural from the state I have already chosen? Answer quietly, and do that. Sometimes it is a phone call. Sometimes it is water. Sometimes it is no reply at all. The power is not in the drama of the move. It is in the fidelity between move and state. As you repeat this in small moments, something elegant happens. The mind stops begging the day for assurances and starts recognizing the day as feedback. The silence in your inbox after you firm a boundary ceases to feel like loss. It reads as a filter, removing what cannot breathe at your altitude. The unexpected invitation after an afternoon of genuine calm no longer feels like luck. It registers as the first visible stitch in a fabric you have been weaving from the inside. The pattern becomes trustworthy because it is legible, and the legibility is yours. If doubt interrupts, and it will, treat it as a bell, not a verdict. Doubt only proves the system is sensitive. The instrument picked up a subtle wobble. Good, the instrument works. Return to the simple mechanics. Lengthen the exhale. Tell the truth about what is present. Re-inhabit the trait you have selected as home. There is no penalty for repeating this sequence 10 times in an hour. There is only thickening signal. Every clean pass through the loop tightens the weave, until the state you practiced in minutes becomes the climate you live in by default. Do not be surprised if people tell you that you seem quieter while describing you as stronger. That combination is the signature of coherence. Coherence is not sparkle, it is gravity. It makes the right elements fall towards you and the wrong ones roll away without argument. It is also contagious. Rooms steady when you enter, not because you fixed anyone, but because fields entrain. If another person's turbulence rattles you, do not attempt to manage them. Tend to the only transmitter that belongs to you. Your steadiness is instruction enough. You may notice too that your sense of time keeps softening. Plans still matter, but they stop impersonating fate. You begin to act when it is time to act, and to refrain when refraining is the most powerful move. This is not passivity. It is rhythm. The same way a musician learns not to cram notes into every bar, you will learn to leave measures of space, trusting that space is not emptiness, but resonance. The field uses that resonance to rearrange what you cannot muscle. Keep the practice homely and human. Wake and claim your tone before your thumb touches glass. Catch the body's first flinch and shepherd it into breath. Choose the trait you can sustain. Not a cathedral of ecstasy, but a clean room of sufficiency. Mark the choice with I am, spoken like a craftsman signing work he is not done with yet. Meet the day. Read its answers. Adjust by millimeters, again and again, until the millimeters add up to a map. Here is the living bridge between theory and change. A compact ritual you can perform in a corridor, in a parked car, at your desk, with the browser still open. It does not require privacy or props. It requires sincerity and precision. Think of it as a brief conversation between you and the field in which you clarify who is about to speak and act. You are not trying to hypnotize yourself. You are removing static until the signal is unmistakable. Begin by letting the body arrive before the mind decides anything. Place both feet flat, even if you are seated. Feel the pressure beneath your heels and the toes spreading inside your shoes. Allow the exhale to be a shade longer than the inhale. That extra beat is a universal key the nervous system recognizes as safety. The jaw loosens by itself when the breath unhurriedly leaves, and the shoulders settle as if remembering where they belong. Do not posture like a statue. Inhabit the stance of someone who could listen fully. This small choreography is not decoration. It is instruction. Posture and breath are the fastest way to gather scattered attention back into one place. Once the breath has softened, tell the truth without dramatizing it. Notice the loudest sensation and name it simply. Tightness behind the breastbone, heat in the cheeks, an echo of dread at the base of the throat. Resist the reflex to fix or explain. The moment you let a sensation be exactly itself inside a wider awareness, you stop splitting in two. That cessation of inner argument is coherence beginning. The field hears it as a tone becoming clean. Now invite the trait that belongs to the version of you who handles this very moment with grace. Choose one quality, not a catalog. Steadiness, sufficiency, clarity, openness. Do not chase a mood. Choose a stance. Let the quality tint the breath and change the way your weight meets the ground. Imagine you could pour that quality into your ribs the way you would pour warm water into a cool bowl. When the chest takes on a fraction more width and the neck stops reaching forward, the trait has become physical. That physicality matters. Electromagnetic broadcast is not a concept. It is a measurable body state. Only after breath, sensation, and trait have agreed do you speak the seal. Say, I am, quietly, as if you were signing the corner of a painting no one needs to be told is yours. There is no need to add adjectives unless they emerge as a fact rather than a wish. If the body is hosting steadiness, I am steady will feel like reporting the weather. If it is not, allow the plain I am to stand as the declaration that choosing has occurred. The field does not require flourish. It requires unanimity. Open your eyes to the room as if seeing it 1 degree wider. This is where you prove the state with a single, ordinary act. Reach for the next task, the phone, the door, the email, but do it at the speed of the breath you just set. If the old reflex tries to drag you back to hurry, lengthen the next exhale by a beat. Let the shoulders drop that millimeter again, and proceed. The proof of coherence is not in fireworks. It is in the tone of the next small movement. When contrast appears, and it will, because echoes of yesterday still turn the corner, meet it like a musician meets a note slightly out of tune. You do not scowl at the instrument. You tighten a peg with calm fingers until resonance returns. In practical terms, this means pausing for a single breath when the text arrives or the memory bites, naming what flared up without judgment, and re-inhabiting the chosen trait. The question that keeps you honest is simple and unsentimental. From this state, what would be natural now? Sometimes the answer is silence. Sometimes it is a sentence that contains no apology. Sometimes it is a glass of water, because the body that carries your frequency is asking for it. You can lace a sensory anchor into this check without turning it into ritual theater. A trace of a clean scent on the wrist, the cool face of a small stone in a pocket, the first bar of a melody hummed under the breath. Choose one association and use it only here. Each time you pair it with the felt state, you are laying a path the nervous system will sprint down the next time you need it. The anchor is not magic, it is memory. The beauty of this 3-minute reset is that it scales. On a day when time feels like gravel, you may need to run it 5 times before lunch. There is no penalty for repetition. Signal thickens with every pass. On lighter days, you will notice that the body volunteers the longer exhale when a challenge approaches, as if your physiology has learned your intentions and is setting the room before you arrive. Do not confuse gentleness with softness. This practice will make you more decisive, not less, because decisions stop contending with private turbulence. Boundaries spoken from steady breath land clean and are rarely debated. Invitations accepted or declined from sufficiency do not need lengthy defense. Work done inside the climate of clarity finishes faster, not because you are rushing, but because conflict is no longer braided into every movement. This is what efficiency looks like when measured in nervous systems rather than clocks. It is common, once coherence becomes familiar, to feel both quieter and more noticeable. People cannot always articulate what changed. They adjust to you instead. Some will feel relieved and lean in. Others will jostle against the gravity you now carry and drift away. Let both outcomes register as the same kind of answer. The field is rearranging furniture to fit the room you have chosen to live in. If the mind insists on measuring, offer it honest metrics it can respect. Notice how often you catch the first somatic flinch. Notice how quickly the breath remembers its longer exit. Notice how rarely you explain yourself when you do not need to. Let these be enough. The scoreboard will move invisible. Ways, emails returned, doors opening, friction dissolving. But counting those wins too early tempts you back into performance. Stay with the interior numbers. The exterior ones will cue themselves. You can run this check anywhere, before a call, as your hand meets a doorknob, on the sidewalk while a signal changes. You can run it inside an argument without telling anyone that you are doing it. You can run it while you read words like these and decide whether they are going to be moving ideas or moving parts. 3 minutes is not a long time. It is long enough to choose who acts next. What you resist does not simply persist, it broadcasts. Every time you push a feeling away, the field reads the push as loudly as the feeling itself and returns a reality shaped by conflict. Allowing is not resignation, and it is not passivity. Allowing is precision, an elegant stance where you let a state be exactly what it is without letting it drive the next choice. When you allow, you remove the static of self-argument, and coherence appears the way a lake clarifies when the wind dies. The world then mirrors your clarity instead of your struggle. Begin by noticing the first flicker of contraction as a messenger rather than an enemy. The messenger always arrives with a physical signature, a band across the chest, a heat in the jaw, a restless flutter in the stomach. Before a single thought offers commentary, meet the sensation the way you would meet rain on your skin, directly, without a story. Say inwardly, very simply, "This can be here." Those 4 words are not a trick. They are a valve. The nervous system hears permission and stops flooding your body with instructions to flee an experience that is, in fact, already happening. Breath lengthens by a fraction. Shoulders drop by a whisper. Space returns. Allowing is not agreement with the content of the feeling. You can allow the presence of fear while choosing courage. Allow the ache of grief while answering an email. Allow the pulse of anger while speaking with restraint. What you no longer do is stack a second emotion on top of the first. A resentment about the fear, a shame about the grief, a guilt about the anger. That second wave is what shreds coherence. Let the first wave complete its natural arc. 90 seconds of chemistry, a minute and a half of honest weather, and you will often find that action becomes simple again. The field hears the simplicity and organizes around it. Imagine an argument beginning to rise in a familiar relationship. Old reflexes reach for the script, raise volume, defend position, gather proof. Allowing interrupts the script at the level of physiology. Feel the heat in the cheeks and let it be heat. Feel the breath catch and let it be a caught breath. Then release the exhale 1 beat longer. Look at the other person's face as if you were seeing it for the first time, which you are, because no face is ever exactly the same twice. In that tiny pause, a different sentence becomes available, 1 inch shorter, 1 layer truer, free of the hidden request to be right. The conversation often softens not because you forced it, but because you stopped broadcasting combat. The mind will object. It will say that allowing gives problems power, that accepting a feeling is the same as endorsing it. This is a misunderstanding born from years of confusing suppression with strength. Suppression hides a state inside the body, where it compounds interest. Allowing exposes a state to the light of awareness, where it metabolizes. Think of sunlight on frost. You do not attack it. You let warmth do what warmth does, and ice becomes water without a fight. The field understands this language. It is built on the physics of exposure and relaxation. There is a way of speaking to yourself during allowing that protects your authority. Avoid future tense bargains and vague promises. Say what is true in the simplest present. Fear is here, and I am safe. Grief is here, and I can breathe. Anger is here, and I will act with care. These pairings keep you sovereign. They anchor the emotion to a body that is choosing, not to a story that is spiraling. The instant you marry sensation with safety, choice returns to the room. You will meet moments when the feeling seems too loud to hold. Allowing does not mean drowning. Expand the container without numbing it. Let the eyes rest on something steady and uncomplicated. The edge of a table, the line of a windowsill, the slope of your own palm, and let the gaze soften until edges look kinder. This simple optical gentleness feeds the vagus nerve a message it can trust. We are not under attack. If the thought stream surges, give it a gentler job. Ask it to describe 5 colors in the room or to find the longest straight line in sight. Attention calms when you offer it something honest to touch. There is a paradox you will learn to love. When you stop performing positivity, the body stops generating negativity to balance the ledger. Authenticity is a homeostasis of its own. If sadness is what is true and you let sadness be true, the body does not have to stack agitation on top of it to get your attention. You have given attention freely, and the system rewards you with peace that is not the opposite of sadness, but the space that can host it. The field reads that space as coherence and begins moving pieces in your favor, not because you have earned a prize, but because clear signals invite clear responses. Allowing will change how you use boundaries. You will find yourself saying fewer words, and those words will land as though they weigh more because they are not inflated with apology or thinned with explanation. No thank you, delivered from a regulated breath, is a sentence reality understands. People accustomed to your old turbulence may test this new climate, sometimes gently, sometimes not. Allow that too. You are not responsible for anyone else's pacing. You are responsible for the clarity of your own broadcast. The field handles the rest with a mathematics you no longer need to manage. Notice also how allowing refines your intuition. When you are no longer busy wrestling what you feel, you can feel what you know. Guidance stops sounding like a riddle and starts sounding like a nudge. Turn here, wait there, send this, say nothing. Synchronicities sharpen in proportion to your unforced honesty. The meeting happens on the day you did not try to fill. The message arrives in the minute you did not try to rush. The opportunity opens on the path you did not try to widen. This is not luck. This is friction leaving your field. A word on anger, because many of us learn to fear its heat. Anger is the body's way of saying a boundary matters. Allowed anger is clean. It warms the chest, clarifies the mouth, steadies the spine. Suppressed anger ferments into contempt. Amplified anger explodes into harm. Allowed anger names a fact and acts with care. When you feel it rise, let the jaw unclench and the hands find something steady to touch. The back of a chair, the edge of a counter. Breathe once, as if blowing across a candle you want to flicker but not extinguish. Speak from the breath you just took. The field respects this fire because it burns in a single direction. Grief receives the same respect. You do not schedule it, and you do not apologize for it. When grief arrives, it is life recomputing value. Sit where you can, and let your face be unremarkable. Tears down an unremarkable face teach the body that sorrow is survivable without theater. The quiet relief that follows grief aloud is one of the most stable frequencies you will ever broadcast. Life sends good things to people who have room. If you want a single compass phrase you can carry anywhere, use this. Can this be here? And am I still safe? Let the first half train your nervous system to stop fighting what already exists. Let the second half remind your nervous system that it is anchored to a body in a room with a floor. Safety is not the disappearance of sensation. It is the presence of enough awareness to host sensation without losing yourself. As you practice, you will discover that allowing and directing are not opposites. They are partners. Allowing clears the static. Direction sets the station. You let fear be present without war, and then you choose sufficiency. You let disappointment be present without drama, and then you choose openness. You let fatigue be present without blame, and then you choose gentleness. The field reads the sequence as music with a clean attack and a beautiful sustain. It responds with harmony. Carry this into the most ordinary scenes. The line that stalls at the cafe. The email that arrives with a tone you do not like. The silence after you send a message that matters. These are perfect theaters for allowing. Let the first wave be first, then let your chosen state take the next step. Do it in small places, and large places will not intimidate you. Creation begins as a quiet signal. Before a word leaves your mouth or a hand moves toward a door, there is the tone you are broadcasting, the hum of your nervous system, the posture of your attention. Signal hygiene is the art of protecting that tone so it does not get contaminated by noise you did not mean to send. When the channel is clean, the field does not have to guess. It does not mishear a plea as a command or a worry as a wish. It reads you clearly and reorganizes reality with the same clarity. Begin with the places your attention touches most often. Each screen, each room, each conversation is a tuning fork that teaches your body what to hum. You do not have to become a hermit to keep your channel clean, but you do have to become a curator. Notice how your system feels after a few minutes in a particular digital feed or a particular voice. If your breath shortens and your shoulders lift, that environment is charging you with static you will later mistake for urgency. If your jaw softens and a longer exhale arrives without effort, that environment is clarifying you. Hygiene is the discipline of choosing the second as often as possible, and meeting the first with deliberate boundaries rather than vague intentions. Language is the most overlooked pollutant. We throw words like grit onto delicate gears and then wonder why movement grinds. When you say that you are overwhelmed, the field hears a state, not a metaphor, and organizes a reality that keeps you there. When you confess that you are behind, the field takes you at your word and stretches the distance. This is not superstition. It is mechanics. You are constantly tagging your broadcast with labels, and the labels become coordinates. Replace dramatized labels with precise descriptions that leave you sovereign. You are not overwhelmed. There are many inputs and you are choosing what matters. You are not behind. You are aligning your pace with what is true. Clean words keep the dial steady. Posture is signal. The body is not a vehicle carrying your consciousness around. It is the speaker that plays it. Rounded shoulders, a collapsed chest, a gaze that points down toward threat or fault. All of these broadcast contraction even when your mouth is saying abundance. Let the sternum float a finger's width higher. Let the back of the neck lengthen as if a thread were lifting you from the crown. Let the eyes rest at the horizon. This arrangement does not pretend confidence. It allows the vagus nerve to read safety, and a safe body can carry a coherent message farther than a tense one can carry any clever sentence. Rituals are the rinses that keep residue from building. A ritual does not need incense or elaborate timing. It needs sincerity and repetition. Choose something you can do in less than a minute that feels like closing a circuit. A hand to the chest before opening a door, a longer exhale before answering a message, a brief glance at the sky before you sit to work. These small closures prevent moments from bleeding into each other until your day becomes a gray blur of half-finished broadcasts. The field loves edges. When it knows a chapter has ended, it can begin the next one without dragging yesterday's furniture into today's room. Relationships require their own hygiene. People do not contaminate you. Contracts do. The unspoken agreement to be smaller so someone feels safe. The recurring performance where you play the rescuer so no one has to meet their own strength. The old choreography where irritation is the only language of desire. All of these contracts create static even when the affection is real. Hygiene is the kindness of renegotiation. You do not punish anyone. You stop rehearsing the version of yourself that cannot carry the signal you now live from. You will lose some roles and gain truer company. Do not mistake the quiet that follows honest boundaries for loneliness. It is the consonant silence in which better conversations can hear their cue. Time management is signal management wearing a watch. When you cram 3 tasks into a space that can carry one, you are not proving drive. You are training your nervous system to mistake panic for aliveness. Give actions their actual size. Begin slightly earlier than your habit. End slightly before the last second. Leave a breath of unscheduled room between things. That breath is where guidance lands. A day paced like a prayer hums at a frequency the field recognizes as leadership, and life sends you responsibilities that match that tone. Consumption, what you read, watch, and listen to, either sharpens or fuzzes your edges. The test is simple and gentle. How is your breath after 5 minutes? How do you sit? How does your mouth shape words? If your rhythm is harsher and your vocabulary is more absolute, you are ingesting conflict. If your rhythm is steadier and your vocabulary is more precise, you are ingesting coherence. Choose creators whose work helps your body remember how to breathe. You do not owe your attention to outrage. Your attention is a studio microphone. Keep it free of feedback. Money has its own broadcast, and hygiene here is devotion to clarity rather than drama. Pay what you owe on time, not just to avoid fees, but to teach your field that exchange can be clean. Ask to be paid on terms that respect the work, then meet the work with the same respect. When you spend, do not apologize with your energy. Choose, then bless the direction of the flow. Money sent with resentment returns with confusion. Money sent with steadiness returns with steadiness. The field reads the feeling in the hand, not the number on the invoice. Creative work benefits from a simple covenant. Start before you feel ready, and stop before you are empty. Starting early teaches the body that inspiration is a partner, not a tyrant. Stopping a little full teaches the body that the well replenishes faster when it is not scraped. This rhythm prevents the boom and bust, cycles that turn art into extraction, and leave your signal sounding like exhaustion, pretending to be brilliance. Coherence has a timbre. Let your craft keep it. Silence is not an absence. It is a cleanser. Most noise is filler we use to avoid feeling the last 3% of a sensation. Give yourself small regions of daily quiet where no input is allowed and no output is required. A hallway between rooms where you do not check the screen. A stretch of commute where you do not add sound. A corner of morning with nothing scheduled. In silence, the residue of other people's broadcasts rinses off your signal, and what remains is recognizable as you. When you make mistakes, and you will, because you are alive, clean them quickly. Hygiene is not perfection, it is repair. If your words land crooked, straighten them without a courtroom. If you break a promise to yourself, keep the next one in a smaller size. Shame is a corrosive chemical that pits the instrument. Responsibility is a gentle polish that restores shine without thinning the metal. The field is not grading you, it is listening. Speak clearly again. Night is the last and greatest filter. End your day with a small act that tells your system you can stop broadcasting now. Dim a single light. Wash the day from your hands with attention. Write one line that names what was true, and one line that names what is chosen. Then let the body fall into the dark. Sleep is not a pause in creation. It is creation without your interference. In the morning, You will wake in a room already tuned by the last clean note you played. Signal hygiene is not a new identity to perform. It is the quiet stewardship of the instrument you already are. The more faithfully you keep the channel clear, the less you will need to push, explain, or convince. Reality hears you the first time because there is only one voice speaking. And when there is only one voice, the field can only answer with harmony. Every state carries a voltage. Joy is bright and obvious, like sunlight on metal. Fear is heavy and granular, like wet sand in your shoes. Most people spend their lives trying to outrun the heavier textures, mistaking them for proof of failure, when in truth they are compressed energy, waiting for a wiser handler. State transmutation begins the moment you stop trying to feel different and start becoming intimate with what is already here. Not as a performance, not as a clever trick to get the universe to move faster, but as a straightforward act of sovereignty. I will meet my own weather, and I will learn how to use it. Start by recognizing the architecture of a dense state in your body. Anxiety rarely arrives as an idea first. It shows up as a pace in your breath, a tightness beneath the collarbones, a restless choreography of hands and jaw. Anger has its geometry too, a heat rising through the throat, a forward lean that wants to push the world wider. Sadness is weight, not weakness. It pulls you toward the ground as if the earth were asking you to place something down. When you can name the architecture without prosecuting it, you have already begun the alchemy. Attention is solvent. The moment you look with precision instead of judgment, the state softens at the edges, as metal does when warmed correctly. Transmutation is not denial. Denial freezes energy in place and forces you to drag it everywhere you go. Transmutation is movement. You take the raw charge, give it a channel, and let it change form without losing its truth. Imagine fear as electricity miswired into a siren. The same current, rerouted through a lamp, becomes illumination. The body knows how to reroute when you give it a simple sequence and the dignity of time. Let the breath lead first, not to erase the feeling, but to loosen its casing. A longer exhale than inhale is enough to tell the vagus nerve there is room. When the body hears there is room, the mind stops shouting. When the shouting quiets, information hidden inside the emotion steps forward, not as a riddle, but as instruction. Every dense state hides a competent request. Anxiety is often asking for orientation. What matters now, in this room, with these hands? Anger is asking for boundary, where you end and the world begins, and what must be said so you can stay true inside that line. Grief is asking for release, the white-knuckled grip around a version of life that has already completed its work. When you translate the request and answer it with an action sized for this hour, the state gives up its hoarded fuel. You will feel it as heat becoming focus, as heaviness becoming gravity, as agitation becoming clean momentum. You are not fixing yourself. You are letting your system spend the energy on what it was meant to build. There is a posture that makes transmutation simpler. Sit or stand, as if a quiet hand were between your shoulder blades, reminding you to grow in two directions at once. Roots down, crown up. When your spine remembers its length, your nervous system can stack properly, and stacked systems conduct power without sparking. Now let your gaze rise a breath above the horizon. Do not force a smile. Let the mouth be neutral and honest. Invite the emotion to take up its actual size in this arrangement. You will discover that what felt unmanageable in a collapsed posture becomes workable when the instrument is tuned. This is not theatrics, it is physics. Form dictates flow. Precision of language seals the change. Speak to yourself in sentences that honor both the feeling and the direction. Instead of, I shouldn't feel this, try, something in me is afraid, and I am choosing clarity. Instead of, I'm angry and out of control, try, there is heat here, asking for a boundary, and I will set it cleanly. The field is listening for coherence. When your words braid sensation with agency, the signal becomes clear enough for reality to cooperate without friction. You will notice conversations land with less debris, decisions take fewer drafts, and timing slide into place as if it were your native alphabet. Do not rush the final moments. After the breath has steadied and the instruction inside the emotion has been followed, there is always a residue, the faint echo of the old frequency rattling the glass. Give it a respectful minute. Place a palm over the place where the state lived strongest, and hold still as that area equalizes. Body heat is a kind technology. It tells the tissue that a witness stayed. Witness ends what willpower cannot. When the echo fades, close the ritual with a small act of orientation. Look around the room, name 3 real objects, and choose the next right movement. This anchors the new state in the ordinary world, which is where your power is meant to live. You will know transmutation is working when the same old triggers begin to lose their talent for theater. The email still arrives, but your breath does not abandon you. The memory still visits, but it passes like weather instead of building a season in your chest. People around you will feel the difference without a word. Some will relax in your presence. Others will test for the old edge and find it gone. Do not perform your new steadiness for applause. Let it be a quiet change in the room's temperature. Coherence does not advertise. It emanates. In time, you will begin to recognize dense states as messengers. You respect rather than invaders. You resist. Fear will become your earliest warning system that you have stepped out of orientation. Anger will become your clean engine for protecting what matters, without burning the village. Grief will become proof that you can love without bargaining for guarantees. And in that proof, intimacy will grow where performance used to sit. The charge that once scattered you will start to build you. You will walk through days that once required a hero and discover that all they needed was a conductor. Remember this whenever the storm returns. You are not trying to feel better. You are learning to use more of your instrument. The field is not grading your mood. It is reading your signal. When you meet your own weather with posture, breath, truthful language, and a practical answer to the request inside the feeling, your signal clarifies. Clear signals bend events. This is not a metaphor. It is the everyday mechanics of a coherent life. There are hours when life feels thick, like walking through syrup, and there are minutes when everything loosens and the world seems to move out of your way. Most people treat this as luck and keep pushing at the same pace, unaware that timing is not a calendar trick but a living current that can be sensed and partnered with. Quantum timing is the art of noticing when reality's attention on you intensifies, when the feedback loop between your state and the field becomes unusually quick, and then letting your action or your stillness meet that window with precision. The difference between forcing and flowing is often nothing more exotic than choosing the right depth at the right moment. Begin with the body because timing announces itself there first. In heightened windows, your perception subtly brightens, edges look cleaner, breath organizes without effort, and a quiet certainty sits beneath your ribs as if the floor has moved closer. The mind wants to shout instructions when this happens. Let it stay quiet. Your task is not to speed up, but to remove drag. Speak plainly. Make the call you have been circling. Send the message without polishing the shine off its truth. Step into the room that has been waiting for the version of you who can stand without wobbling. The field is already carrying part of your weight. Precision becomes easy when you stop arguing with the lift. There are also hours when the signal thins. Your tongue trips on simple phrases. Small tasks multiply friction. People miss each other by inches, and the day feels like a pocket full of static. This is not a curse, and it is not a moral test. It is a low tide period where the field is busy reweaving pathways you cannot see. If you insist on sprinting here, you convert a natural lull into exhaustion, and then call the fatigue a character flaw. Wisdom is the ability to let the tide be a tide. Shift to groundwork that does not demand immediate response. Clean the desk that has been nagging your nervous system. Consolidate ideas into a single page. Restore your instrument through water, light, and simple food. You are not doing nothing. You are clearing the runway for the next ascent. Sensitivity to windows is trained the same way you learned the weather of your childhood street, by stepping outside often enough to know what the air means. Give yourself 1-minute pauses at the top of each hour you are awake. Stand or sit with the spine long and let the breath lengthen on its own. Ask only one honest question. Is this a moment for reach or root? If the body feels slightly taller and the gaze rises of its own accord, reach. If the body feels wide and heavy like soil drinking rain, root. Reaching in a rooting hour creates noise. Rooting in a reaching hour wastes lift. The question does not need language after a while. Your tissues will answer faster than thought. Opportunity is not just a door opening. It is your field, and another field becoming momentarily harmonious. When you sense that swell, two agendas clicking, timing warming, the room tilting in your favor, resist the old habit of over-explaining or shrinking to be polite. Precision is generosity. Say the sentence that names the need cleanly. Offer the number that respects everyone's time. Ask for the date instead of lingering in, maybe. When the match is true, the simplest articulation seals it. When the match is not true, no amount of charm can force coherence without a cost you will pay later with interest. Timing saves you from both inflation and discounting because it keeps you in proportion to the moment. Rest, too, has its window. Real recovery is not an apology for productivity. It is virile, targeted, and strangely short when you meet it right. There will be a point, often after a concentrated, elegant effort, when your system wants to drop below thinking and let the scaffolding of the new state harden. If you override that urge with shallow busyness, you steal from the very result you tried to earn. 20 honest minutes with your eyes closed, breath heavy and unperformed, can stabilize an entire week's trajectory. You are not fragile for needing it. You are precise for taking it when it arrives instead of bargaining for permission you do not require. Do not confuse urgency with timing. Urgency is a nervous system trying to outrun sensation. Timing is a conversation with the field. One feels like clenching around the future. The other feels like stepping into a lane that appears under your feet. The signature of true timing is ease without laziness, velocity without strain, clarity without volume. You will know you have entered it when agreement meets you quickly, and resistance, when it appears, is clean rather than sticky. Even a no in such a window feels useful, like a sign posted early on a path you do not need to bushwhack. You can prime a window, but you cannot bully it open. Priming is coherence work, breath that is longer on the exhale than the inhale, posture that lengthens the spine and softens the jaw, language that tells the truth without performance. These practices do not drag opportunity to your door. They make your signal so clean that the field can route opportunities without static. When the window widens, your preparation is already paid for. The action you take looks modest from the outside because the heavy lifting was done by order, not by muscle. Notice how timing reshapes relationship. There are moments when a difficult conversation lands as medicine, and others when the same words would calcify into defense. Speak when both bodies can afford to listen. If the other person's breath is high and their eyes are scanning for exits, that is a low tide hour. Offer containment, not conclusions. If their shoulders drop when you enter and their humor returns without effort, name what matters and let the room do some of the work. The point is not to control anyone else's weather. It is to place your message where it can root, instead of ricochet. In the end, quantum timing is humility in motion. You stop pretending you are the only engine in the room. You stop criticizing life for not obeying your calendar and start becoming the kind of presence that events like to organize around. The windows are not rare. Your attention to them has been. Practice noticing, practice obeying what you notice, and your days will begin to show the choreography that was always possible. Decisive moves taken at the exact second they cost the least and return the most. Honest rests that harden progress instead of leaking it. Conversations that land because the room was ready. When the next swell rises, and it will, let your body lengthen. Let your sentence be simple. And step. When the water draws back, let yourself root without apology. Ride both honestly, and you will discover that momentum is not a personality trait. It is a relationship with time.